All right, this is an intersection pattern. It's a practice pattern. It's pretty common at motor training schools. More of an advanced, say, toward the end of your motor school portion. Say if it's a 30-day school, you probably won't be introduced to this for toward the end of the end or middle of the second week. And really it's an intersection. The flow can be left or right. The nice thing with this pattern, if you find a place to measure this out, and you can read the measurements on here, is that it allows me to do a lot of things. I play around with an intersection pattern. You see these cones here. Basically what an intersection is, you drop in wherever. There's no entry or exit. You just get into this pattern and you ride around in it. And this is the path of travel. We drop in as if this were a lane of a roadway, and then you got to make a U-turn, right turn, U-turn, right turn, U-turn. So whatever direction you're going to go, that's the more aggressive direction. So meaning that on my rights, all I'm doing is doing a 90 degree, but on my lefts, I'm making a full U-turn. So 90 degree full U-turn, 90 degree full U-turn. And you put these cones here to force that person doing this to really have to commit to locking the bike into this portion of the U-turn rather than just kind of diving in and doing like a S where it's really shallow. Some people will do that. They'll just kind of stay in here, and it's like, no. You want to really dive in there to force this U-turn. So a couple of things with this conceptually, I don't really want to show you, we're not really going to talk about the right or wrong way, but just concepts with the flow. Well, I will show you both things. So first of all, let's talk about basics. So you make your U-turn wherever you do. Ideally, because this is a pretty tight pattern, you're going to end up doing a deep U-turn in here, okay? But here's the thing that's important for you to remember. Here's what a lot of people screw up. And by the way, I have done motor comps where they include the intersection. They might make an entry here and then an exit, here, and you actually have to go through the whole pattern. But here's where people screw this up. So they make this U-turn, and now they're here. And then they make, from here, they make the 90 degree right. Well, okay, so now they're over here. Well, now you have to try to make a U-turn from over here, and odds are you're going to hit these cones. It's too tight. So what I do, and again, when you're thinking about a motor competition pattern, what do I keep harping on? Whatever you execute, whenever you're completed with it, you need to make sure you've put yourself in a good position for whatever is next. Rather than saying, okay, I'm going to make this U-turn, I'm going to hug this tight and really maximize my space and cut this tight, because if I cut it tight, it'll be quicker. Well, maybe it'll be quicker just for this section, but you're not going to execute this section properly. So no, that's the wrong way to do it. So what I do in a pattern like this is, let's just say this was our start. I'm going to come through here all the same. The only difference is when I've completed this, you're going to see this. You're going to see me continue. This will be more of a teardrop, and then I'm going to come out here so that when I make this turn, I can drop back in here and I get this real estate again, because I need this real estate rather than being over here. I can't, this is too tight. The distance from here to here, right here, that's too tight. But we need to get back to here like we had here. We have the whole distance, right? Okay, we do. So once I complete, I need to keep turning, and I'm pulling away from this line, which is kind of an amateur, not really thinking this through. But you're not going to make this pattern unless you swing out a little bit, and I'm exaggerating this a little bit, and you drop back in. Now, once you complete this, because you're going to have enough room now, you have all this now, is, again, you're going to come back out and swing out, and this will be your path of travel, and you'll drop back in again, and then you'll come through, you'll swing out, and you'll drop back in again, and you'll swing out, and you'll drop back in again. So look at the difference between this looking like a plus or this looking really like you're and I know we talked about road race lines. This is kind of a road race line. If you are good enough and you've really dialed this in, can you hug this and do this a little tighter maybe you can, but as a rule, I would think about patterns like this. And the reason you need to get this wrapped around in your brain is because, like I said, whatever's next, you want to be set up. And if you put yourself in this position over here, you're going to be in a compromising deal at some point in a competitive pattern. But if you give yourself room and really lay out these road racing lines, it's better, and it's less herky-jerky also, okay? Let me see if there's anything else to really add. Oh, also, if you do set this pattern up, one nice thing I like is, what do we have here? We have figure eights, okay? So when I set up an intersection, I'll set up figure eights. This is another thing I'll do is, I'll do this. Hard left, drive over to this. Hard left, drive over to here. Hard left, so I'll show that in red. But that's, finish that off, finish that off, finish that off, finish that off, and back. So this cycle here is also focusing on really driving, and it's, you know how I showed you in this earlier pattern where you exit out of here, and this is a nice arc of a turn all the way through here? Well, you're starting from a tight turn, you're accelerating all the way through that, right? Well, isn't that the same as finishing out here and accelerating all the way through that, dropping in all the way through that? This will speed up your thought process for dropping in, and I call it dropping in because we're not finishing this, go over here, finish this, go over here. If you see, it's that sweeping, smooth motion, okay? So if you do set up an intersection, you can play around with all these. Figure eights, intersection, dropping back on yourself there like I showed you, and that type of pattern. And again, both directions. You can finish that off, drop over, finish that off, drop over, finish that off, drop over. And so an intersection kind of gives you a lot to play around with, but I like the idea here that you're practicing accelerating from this point. You're coming out, you're accelerating, and you're leaned over this whole time. You're still leaned over, finish this, leaned over the whole time, finish this, leaned over the whole time. Your bike's never straight up. It's always cocked over a little bit because you're always in a constant turning movement. But if you can get your mind wrapped around that idea, you can start looking at patterns better and say, okay, let me see how I can link these sections up. And I'm going to be leaned over from this point all the way through that. But you're used to it, and it's nice and smooth all the way through there. And you'll start connecting sections with that idea in your mind. All right.